So the UHJ is the supreme administrative body of the Baha'i Faith. It consists of 9 elected members. But the foundational text originally mandated that it had to operate alongside a hereditary guardian.
Right, and this guardian wasn't just a figurehead. He was intended to be the permanent sacred head of the UHJ, right? Like the authoritative interpreter of the scriptures.
Exactly. There were supposed to be 2 pillars supporting one unified system.
Wait, so if the original design explicitly required a hereditary guardian to sit at the head of this council, how are they operating today? Because our historical sources show the first guardian, Shoghi Effendi, he died suddenly in 1957.
He did, yeah. And he died without leaving a will. He didn't name a successor either.
Wow.
And to make matters more complicated, the text explicitly specified that the guardian had to be a lineal descendant. Since he didn't have any children, that line it abruptly ended.
So they were just stuck.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Since its very first election in 1963, the UHJ has been ruling without this intended sacred head.
I mean, I'm struggling to see how a supposedly divinely inspired system didn't have a contingency plan for, a sudden death. If the text demanded a lineal descendant, how did the followers just accept the UHJ taking over and flying solo?
Well, that's actually the critical tension highlighted in the historical sources. The transition was not seamless at all. The justification required this massive theological pivot by the leadership.
The pivot to what, exactly?
They essentially concluded that because God had ended the line of the guardianship, the UHJ just had to assume full authority. It was the only way to keep the faith unified.
Which, I mean, think about it. That puts an unbearable amount of pressure on the UHJ's authority. If their structural legitimacy is fundamentally altered, they need an ironclad reason for people to actually obey them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why their doctrine of infallibility carries so much weight now. It's really the only glue holding the whole structure together.
Right, because the doctrinal text described this 9-member body as being under the, quote, unerring guidance of God. Like, they are literally freed from all error.
Yes. And originally, remember, the guardian was supposed to review the UHJ's legislative decisions. If he conscientiously believed a decree conflicted with the spirit of the scriptures, he was bound to insist they reconsider it.
So he was the theological safety net, like a built-in veto to keep the council in check.
Exactly. But without the guardian, critics argue that safety net just vanishes. You now have a group of fallible humans who are elected by fallible people, by the way making universally binding decrees.
And because there's no longer any structural mechanism for theological review, the infallibility claim suddenly has to carry the entire weight of the religion's legitimacy.
Right. And for the listener, just think about how any governing body operates in your own life, like your city council or your national legislature.
Yeah, you expect debate, you expect amendments, the right to protest if you disagree.
Exactly. Now imagine if its policies could literally never be questioned or challenged because they are deemed divine and perfect.
That's terrifying. I mean, the sources actually note that openly disagreeing with a UHJ decision can lead to spiritual excommunication.
And it gets deeper. When you have an institution that truly believes its decisions are infallible, the philosophy doesn't just stop at guiding a specific religious community.
The logical endpoint of absolute divine infallibility has to be universal jurisdiction, doesn't it?
It does. The sources reveal the UHJ isn't just meant to guide Baha'is. It is prophesied to eventually become the ruling administrative body for the entire human race.
The entire human race. So the texts outline this future world commonwealth, where the separation of church and state is just completely dissolved.
Completely. The UHJ views itself as the embryo of a global superstate. The blueprint dictates that it will eventually merge with a universal court of arbitration to establish world peace.
Dictating both spiritual and political life on a global scale. It's literally a blueprint for a future global theocracy.
Yes, a single institution claiming the authority to govern every nation on earth, completely without the possibility of error. They're playing a very long game here.
Wow, so we're looking at a trajectory that starts with this interrupted architectural design, the missing permanent head, and it compensates with absolute claims of divine infallibility.
And that stretches all the way to the ultimate goal of ruling mankind.
It's wild. So, as you go about your day, ponder this. If a single global governing body could actually guarantee universal peace and eradicate war, would the absolute surrender of individual political dissent and unquestioning obedience to that institution be a price worth paying?